Hopefully, you're with us. Our next speaker, here
I'm
he is. Jaan Aru is an associate professor at the University of Tartu. And Jaan is studying creativity, neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and the effect of technology on the human mind. Now, are modern AI systems as creative, or perhaps even more creative than humans? And how is creativity best understood? Jaan? You know the answers. Tell us.
well, I'm a scientist, so I never say that I fully know the answers. I say that I like to study them. And let me tell you a bit about what I figured out. So yes, my field is really at this intersection of artificial intelligence, psychology, and neuroscience. So basically, I try to understand what happens here when these fields interact. And often people ask me, what is it that you do? But these days, people understand that, when you talk to ChatGPT or you use these generative AI models, then you're somehow, using your psychology with the AI and maybe even asking, hey, is it similar? And that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm studying. So basically, one question I always have is, okay, these AI systems are great, but how similar are they to us humans? Second, what is the effect of these tools on us, on our brain? And third, what could we do about it? How could we actually go about it to make use of these tools? And today I will ask these questions about creativity. So, what is creativity? The problem is sometimes people have these big misconceptions that creativity is something only people in arts do or only people in music do. But when we look at the broad context, then creativity simply means that you are combining different ideas towards a new solution. So it's not about arts. You could be creative in a business. You could be creative in science. You could be creative in very many respects and in all different fields where you need to combine something. So in my life, in my scientific life, I have observed a very kind of simple people be super creative when it comes to that. And now first question is, okay, are AI systems creative? And sure, I guess you have seen some of the examples, but let me just show you one more. This is a system then that is taking textual input and generating images. So now imagine in your head a raccoon wearing formal clothes, wearing a top hat, and holding a cane. The raccoon is holding a garbage bag. Oil painting in the style of Rembrandt, Van Gogh, and Picasso. So basically what you see here in these examples is that these systems, in this case, these image generation systems like Party here, they can combine ideas. They can combine different pieces that I gave to the system and then build something from it. And the whole example here was about changing one word, basically changing one piece in the prompt, and then you saw what happened, right? That the raccoon is the same in principle. All the contents are there, but the style of the image is completely different. So that's interesting, right? These systems, they can create creative output. But the real question for us has to be then, all right, they can create creative output, but is it really similar? Is the process similar? So I hope this is clear to everyone. So on the level of product or output, they are similar. But now we want to understand the process, whether what happens inside is similar. And here, I must say that, I wish that always scientists would be the one who figured this out. But in this case, it was actually a singer Nick Cave. Some of you know his songs, who gave a very brilliant answer. So he basically, a fan of him, used ChatGPT the way you have used it, right? That, wrote basically something in, and in this case, he wrote, "Write me song lyrics in the style of Nick Cave." And then he sent those to Nick Cave, and Nick Cave basically said, "Yes, cool, but..." And then he made this important point that I will share with you, saying that, songs are predicated upon the complex internal human struggle of creation. ChatGPT has no inner being. It has been nowhere. It has endured nothing. So that's like a really important point that which Nick Cave pointed out, that look, yeah, these systems they create, but they have nothing inside. There's nothing that they want to do. To put it in other terms, if you don't use ChatGPT, if you don't use these image generation tools, then there's nothing happening inside them. They don't wish anything. They don't want anything. There are no thoughts happening inside. It's very different from you, right? If I would now say, let's make a 2-minute break, and you cannot touch your mobile phone, then there would be many things going on in your brain. Definitely we would have different types of brain activation, but you would also have different thoughts, right? Not all of those thoughts would be good. People think all kinds of things. But the point is that it's not that you stop being the moment you stop interacting. No, there are actually things inside you. But in these AI systems, there's nothing. They are empty in that sense. They don't exist without our prompts. And this is the important thing that Nick Cave here pointed out, that, ChatGPT has no inner being. To better understand this, I like to say that, we should think of internal and external creativity. That there are like two parts of creativity. External is something where you combine knowledge. For example, if you are a businessman, then you combine different things about what other companies are doing, what the user wants, what the user needs, what are the trends, what are the technologies you can use, etc. So these are external things. You combine them in your brain. So even if they are external, often you do that combination in the brain. And in other works, I have basically illustrated that as a Lego building process. So you have the pieces and you want to build something from them. That's the external part. And all creativity is depending on it. Also, if you look at master artists like Picasso, then he was very well versed in arts. He knew what other artists were doing in his paintings. He actually used the bits and pieces of other artists, right? So he was using his knowledge to do something. But, and here's the crucial thing, all creative people, they use these external things and pieces because they have this internal wish to do something, right? If you go back to our businessman, then the businessman has some kind of a drive. It might be based on money, but it might be also based on other things, right? And often where people create, they want to do it. They have this internal wish to do something. And that's the key difference compared to AI systems, which don't have that internal component. And I think we very well see this difference between internal and external when we also think about how creative people use their ideas. So they use their internal creativity, which is a wish to do something, and then make use of tools like ChatGPT or these image generation systems to bring about their idea. So they use AI as a tool to amplify, to boost their own creativity. And there are already plenty of really amazing examples of this. I will just show you one example, which is basically this masterpiece by Jason Allen. And this picture is created with Midjourney. But of course, the artist, Jason Allen, he wanted to create something. That was his idea, his wish to actually do this image. He kind of figured out how to do it better, how to use Midjourney to make his ideas come about. And this is the way AI should be used. But of course, there is also a dark side to it. And now, when I talk about the dark side, let me forget the slides and do it basically with my hands to explain it to you. So, what's the problem then? So I told you that creative people, what they do is that they can use these tools to boost their own ideas. However, now let's imagine a student who gets the task from the teacher or from the professor, and then uses ChatGPT to do this task. So then the internal part comes from the teacher, the external part comes from ChatGPT, and the student gets exactly nothing. Nothing. They don't get anything for their creativity. And it doesn't have to be a student, right? You could think of it being, for example, somebody who's working on design or advertisement, for example, in your company, for example. You tell them as a boss, you give them a task, and then they immediately outsource it to ChatGPT or these image processing tools. And again, they get nothing. And if you don't train your creativity, you don't use your creativity, then of course you lose it. So that is a key point I want to make, that these tools themselves can be used in many ways. And there will be people who amplify their creativity. And there will be people who lose creativity. So there will be people who boost creativity. There will be people who lose creativity because of these tools. And one of the key questions is then, okay, what distinguishes these people? How could we figure out who is who, or who will boost and who will lose, right? And I think, that one of the crucial factors is whether the person has actually learned to use and know this internal part of creativity. Remember, this is what Nick Cave pointed out. This is what we discussed, that this internal part is something AI systems don't have. And if people, hopefully many of you in the audience already, know what you want to do. You have your goals. Then for you, it's easy to incorporate AI as a tool. But if you don't have it, then it's very hard. And there are two problems then. So the first is that there are many people, even amongst us, who they never have developed this internal component. They never have figured out what are their goals, what do they want to achieve, right? And I think partly this is a problem of the education system. Perhaps I will say a few things about it later. The second problem is that this internal creativity is hard work. It's hard to do that creativity stuff. It's hard to really take a goal and then go for it. I mean, you know it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Even if you have this fantastic idea, you want to do something, you are super motivated, then still you might find yourself watching cat videos. Why? Because creativity is hard, doing these things, figuring out new stuff is hard. It's way easier for the brain to get this exciting input, for example, from TikTok or from YouTube, right? And that's the problem. That's the key problem. I see that tools like ChatGPT, they help to avoid this mental effort related to creativity. And then if people start to use ChatGPT before figuring out what they want to do, and they use ChatGPT to do these tasks, then they might actually never develop that. They will never develop their internal creativity. In that sense, these tools, they not only help to avoid this mental effort, but they help to get rid of it. And now, in this context, I often think about kids, because small kids, they still haven't figured out who they are, what they want. I mean, some have, but most not, right? They haven't really built up their passion. They don't know what they want to do. And then, if they basically learn to avoid mental work, because of these tools that we give, then they might never develop this internal creativity, right? In short, if technology empowers these ways to avoid mental work, then it might suffocate creativity. And in some sense, one might ask, okay, why should we care? I mean, yeah, perhaps machines should take all of our thinking and creativity, etc. But I think it's a very fundamental thing, because the way I explained it to you today is that this internal component is the main difference between artificial intelligence and us. So it's not only about creativity. It's not only whether we are creative or not. It's about being human or not, right? So in some sense, we hear a lot that AI systems are getting better and better, and they become more and more human. I think the problem is actually the other way around, that sometimes because of these tools, we lose this internal component and we become less human. But as I explained also, that's not necessary. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be that we use these AI tools to support us to be more creative. So what could we do? I think a really, really key thing is to focus on the education system. Try to get things right there, because the current education system doesn't really support this internal component. And second, ChatGPT is so easy to use for children, so intuitive to use to do their homework, right? And once we get into that trap, it's very hard to get away from it. So I think, and that's a reason why I myself have focused a lot on trying to figure out how we should use these tools in AI, in education, and what we should actually tell the teachers and the kids. So one example is that, instead of trying to teach one particular way how to solve a task, we should always kind of support creativity, even in things like math and physics. We should tell them how you could solve it differently. We should actively look for different solutions. And the other aspect that I often suggest or recommend is that students should ask way more questions, because questions are the tool to kind of figure out what you don't know and what you want to know. And then you can use these AI systems much more profoundly once you have the questions. So, to return to these 3 questions that I posed in the beginning. First, although these AI systems, they often look like they are as creative as humans, then actually they are fundamentally different because they are missing this internal component. Second, what is the effect of these AI tools on our creativity? I made the case that it's not uniform. Not every human will be affected the same way. Rather, there will be people who boost their creativity and there will be people who lose their creativity. And third, what should we do then about this thing? How should we make it so that more people boost their creativity, less people lose their creativity? I think one approach is to try to change how we do it in the education system, that the education system would be less passive, less about learning information, and more active, more about asking for information, asking questions. And this is the moment for you to ask questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jaan. Well, as the gentleman said, please raise your hand if you have any questions that shows that you're being creative and use your brain in the right way. Do we have any questions from the audience? We have a question, one question over there and then over there. Okay.
So, one sec. Okay, so you discuss a lot about how the how we communicate and comparison of creativity of human and modern day AI networks, and isn't it just more iterations and like self-reflection to get the human level? Like if we're talking about human not as like apeness, but the like brain at its like highest intelligence form on the earth right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the fundamental interesting questions we have, that many AI people say that, yeah, there might be differences, but these systems are getting bigger, getting better, and we will reach human intelligence, human creativity, consciousness. I'm on the other camp. I don't agree with that. I think this severely underestimates the complexity of our brain. That there are so many things we don't know about the brain. And yes, we might have systems that do something a bit similar, but there are fundamental differences. And, as a scientist, my task is to try to figure out these fundamental differences.
So is the neural networks nowadays, it's just resemble of the human brain system, but human brain is like still much more complex, like
Yeah, way more
thousands
complex.
maybe
Exactly.
times.
For example, the artificial neural networks, they consist of one type of neuron, right? But in our brains, we have thousands of different types of neurons. That's just one example. Now, if you look at one neuron, then in artificial neural network, it's just a piece of code. But in your brain, if I would be there and take a neuron out of your brain, then this is like a real living thing. It does things, it changes its shape. There's a complex biochemical processing going on in the neuron. So yeah, there are these fundamental differences between even the biggest AI networks and what happens here in our brain.
We have time for one last question, so let's take a question from that gentleman over there.
Thank you for your interesting talk. I have one question. Don't you think people who are less good with words, thus prompting, are more vulnerable to lose creativity?
Yeah, definitely. So prompting, this is the skill of asking the right things from the system. is a very important skill when working with these systems. And definitely we have to figure out how to teach that better. However, fundamentally, I think the main problem or the biggest problem is when a person even doesn't try to prompt, but rather simply basically copy pastes the task from the teacher or from the supervisor, from the boss, and basically isn't trying to do anything. So we should try to teach how to prompt, but at the first place, we should tell people to even try to prompt, actively ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaan Aru. I'm afraid this is all we have time for.